Moving ahead with the second panel, which is on evolving role of Edtech in higher education, the future of learning and skilling. The moderator for the session is Nasir Sheikh, Group Chief Executive Officer, the Lexicon Group of Institutes, Pune. Welcome, sir. A big round of applause, everybody, please. Professor Anil Kashyap, President and Chancellor, NICMAR University, Pune. A big hand, everybody, please. Dr. Hridaya Deshpande, Vice Chancellor, Ajinkya D.Y. Patil University, Pune. Welcome, sir. And Dr. Anand Chakradev, Pro Vice Chancellor, MIT Art Design and Technology University, Pune. Welcome, sir. A big hand, everybody, please. Over to you, Nasheed, sir.
So great afternoon to everybody, and welcome to this lovely gathering. I think it's critical, that forums as these are set up so discussions can happen in terms of what the need of the hour is. So firstly, thank you to Elets for organizing this, and a big welcome to the panel members. So we're going to kind of discuss the role and importance of technology and how its evolution is critical to adding to the skilling and learning of students as they move forward. When you look at the pandemic per se, and you look at the pre-pandemic, we used to always have BC and AD. Now we kind of talk in the education perspective from a pre-pandemic and a post-pandemic perspective. Technology, there was some adversity in terms of adoption of it. Whilst there were a lot of institutes who adopted technology and integrated that into their learning pedagogies and into the forums, many were adverse to it. What the pandemic did, if anything, is not only accelerated it, but made it a compulsion for, irrespective of where you come from, which institution you are, what level of teaching you're doing, for the adoption of technology. And we moved very, very quickly from brick to click. Post-pandemic, I think, and during the pandemic, I think a big emphasis and understanding came in on how technology can be an enabler and can help us grow our learning pedagogies and add a lot of value to our students. So my first thought to the panelists would be to have your opening thoughts on what do you see as the role of technology. How do you see that getting integrated? And over to you. So any of you could go first.
This session, it is quite important now to have technology interface for achieving many things, which we haven't thought about. And you rightly mentioned pandemic as one of the key event where everything got resurfaced. For previously too, the first exposure of mine with technology happened in early 2000 when I went and did my PhD from a university in the UK and was one of the teaching assistant at the same time. It was so much embedded into the student learning and the facilitation of key tasks, assessments, even feedback, as well as looking at some of the tracking of information. Those were all there, but it was quite variable. And you rightly said the faculty at that time, 20 odd years ago, was quite reluctant in developed countries as well to have the technology embedded into the classroom, and it was always chalk and talk. But these events and later on emergence of technology, that's another landmark feature. But the COVID has actually resurfaced it in a really positive manner. And when I was there during COVID teaching in UK, post-COVID it was a talk that that we have innovated, we have gone ahead with the use of technology. We can't go back to the same situation which was pre-COVID. So the future delivery has to have this integration of technology plus your conventional teaching. So what is the best of the both worlds? We have to keep that. And that was the starting point post-COVID. And now I think these are the forums where we are discussing that how that can be best implemented into education institution, higher education, and what kind of efficiency benefit, what kind of learning benefit, what kind of even faculty training enhancement benefit we could achieve. These are the really hot topics of debate, and we in our institution, we are looking at these very closely, and we are trying to make best use of all these tools available, but it is long way to go. It is still maturing. There is a lot of opportunity for everybody to participate and to feedback and to improve it. I can not see the future without use of technology in education.
Yeah, and thank you for your opening thoughts out there. I think there's a very important point that you made out there is once we kind of got into it and started the use of technology, and even generations which were not comfortable with the use of technology started using it, there was no going back. And I think institutions across should kind of keep that as one of the mantras, that there should be no going back, and it's only about moving forward and making technology a big enabler. And you got huge support from the NEP also in terms of driving technology and involving that. Ridhesh, from your end, your opening thoughts on the topic.
Yeah, so basically technology is something which is inherent in everything that we do. And there is not a walk of life, our everyday life, which we can imagine without technology. So I think that's a foregone conclusion, so let's not talk much about it. I would rather like to go back to the title of this session, that is the role of Edtech in higher education. And what I was doing was I started looking at the definition of Edtech, because there is a perception of the word, and because there's so much usage of this word Edtech, and there are a lot of companies posing them to be Edtech companies, and I was wanting to figure out what is an Edtech company, and for that was looking at what is Edtech. And the first definition that came was from Investopedia, which says Edtech is hardware and software designed to enhance teacher-led learning in classrooms and improve students' education outcomes. Collins Dictionary defines EdTech as the use of technology within education to aid learning process. So basically, EdTech is something which is to be deployed for aiding the learning process. That's the first and foremost, and that's how we would be able to define an EdTech company and EdTech in higher education. Typically, if you broadly look at the role of technology in education, the role could be defined as three, that is innovation in learning methods, inclusion of technology in education, which is a curricular part of it, and third is development of new learning pathways such as online education, more fluid two-way communication systems, and self-learning. And if we look at these things, I think technology becomes pervasive, and hence we have to start deploying that much more, and it has to become a common and a standard part of all the strategy formulation that a university or any higher education institution would undergo. So there is no two way about it. But then the focus is, and that's where we should not lose focus, that the focus is how do we deploy technology to aid the learning process and not supplement the learning process. It has to be a complementary affair rather than a supplementary thing that we need to do.
And I think that's one of the all-time debates, right? Is it supplementary? Is it an aid? Is it complementary? And, there's no real answer to that, because each person and each academician will kind of come with their own perspective. You've got loads and loads of EdTech companies coming up. In fact, you've got an EdTech company literally mushrooming up every third corner. And that's where I think one of the most critical roles that we play in our various roles is ensuring that there's a quality check, there is an understanding of what that platform is bringing you, and taking that forward. Anand sir, your thoughts on the topic?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So I think we'll have to talk about technology in education. At the same time, education with technology courses. So how many courses we are including in our education system which talk about technology from early days of student life. It can be from schools also. So technology in programs is already there. I mean, we are having enough number of courses which talk about various technology. But we'll have, and while managing the HEIs, also a lot of use of technology is already happening through LMSs. I mean, there is a lot of variety in that, but yes, as per everyone's capacity, as per the institute's capacity, potential, every institute is trying their bit to use and technology and manage their most of the activities, I would say, through either one complete solution or through multiple solutions for multiple activities. Like library can have one solution, accounting can have one solution. So in that sense, it is being used. What we are talking about is technology in education, means in delivering the higher education programs. And that is where the real challenge lies. We have learned in a way, because I teach engineering drawing also. And when COVID stuck, the biggest challenge was how to teach engineering drawing to students, because it's not about showing PPTs and enlightening them. It's about demonstrating. And then we figured out methods to do it. So, but we have done it in very ad hoc way. I mean, I know one professor of design, communication design, who is 78 years old, and he learned the things in so faster that now he conducts all his courses online only. So we have learned it, but I think that is very ad hoc, very basic, very immature, very premature use of technology in teaching learning. What about the experience? Unless we are able to give similar experience or better experience to our students by adopting technology, the use of so-called technologies in education is not going to work. So we'll have to use a lot of augmented reality platforms, virtual reality platforms to give similar experience to our students, so that we'll be able to address masses. Because someone in the morning was talking about GER 27 and aim is to take it to 50. There are 1,100 universities. That means another 1,100 universities which will be required, which is not possible. So unless we embrace technology, it will not be possible to survive in this education as a field.
And you make a very, very important point, right? There were no platforms. There was I don't think there was enough training to bring structure to the whole online or digital or virtual delivery of lectures, of incorporation into the whole education system. We were actually learning as it was happening. The pandemic hit, the lockdowns happened. We started kind of learning and doing out there. That's also the time a lot of edtech companies started, bringing solutions on how they can make things easier for us, make things better for us. And we saw a huge peak. So if, let's say, I think the end of 2020, the beginning of 2021, there was so much out there, and some of those companies don't exist anymore because they over-leveraged themselves. Talking about that, there's a traditional method of career advancement. There's everybody, or most people, kind of at least do their primary education, which is getting their degree or a postgrad from a perspective of a career. So how do you see these edtech companies influencing the whole thought process and aiding and enabling career advancement for various professionals by what they bring to the table? We'll start with you, Anand sir, because and we'll come back
Okay.
this way.
So actually the real question is, who are our competitors? As face-to-face education providers, who are our competitors? Are we competing with Byju's of the world? Or are we competing with Infosys Academy, Microsoft, Google Academies? All these big companies have their in-house academy to train their manpower. They don't rely on us, unfortunately, for training their manpower. So who are, tomorrow I will not be surprised if Google comes up with their own university. They will say, we will create our own manpower. Infosys Academy has already started doing that. I personally believe that for getting a job in IT industry, you don't need that 4 years of education. They will prepare you in 6 months or maximum 1 year if you are moldable, if you have that ability to learn. So we'll have to understand the real competitors.
Yeah, that has actually honestly started coming in. You've got companies like MKCL, they have the MFS program which exists today, that you finish your 12th and we get you.
I'll give you an example of my daughter. She did mechanical engineering from COEP. And she's working for a software company now. And I have seen her, pre-joining training was so rigorous that I always jokingly say, you have done 2 degrees. You did 3 years of mechanical engineering. In 4th year, you did BE IT actually. And she's working well, and it's happening. So we'll have to understand the changing scenario of higher education. I'm not against any edtech company. They will be there. We'll have to embrace them. We'll have to use them. As Hridesh rightly said, it has to be a complementary activity. And it's our challenge, it's our role to see how complementary it will become so that we will flourish, as otherwise it will be a problem of survival, believe me. Tomorrow, if online education is available, it will be available at cheaper cost, at cheaper rates. Who will go to face-to-face education? When the learning will start happening as per the pace of the student, whenever he wants, at whatever location he wants, who will go to bricks and mortar type of universities? So we'll have to take it as challenge. If required, we'll have to embrace it. If required, we'll have to go to all these edtech companies, bring them on our campus, be part of our education, whether we will be there or not. Seriously, it can lead to that extent.
Yeah, I agree with you out there. There's a big element of agility that needs to kind of come in from the perspective of what we do and how we do out there. EdTech companies today are actually providing a lot of solutions which can help higher education institutes to help skill and help their students learn better and bring a lot onto the table. More critically, they're helping the organizations make these individuals into day zero professionals. That was a classic example you gave of how your daughter, during the last year, did so much of onboarding training out there. So the day that she joined the company, that she joined in out there, she was ready to hit the road running from that perspective. So Hridesh sir, from your perspective, how do you see this transition happening from the traditional routes to the edtechs facilitating skilling and learning for a better career?
Okay. So primarily, I think the word skill gap, the word industry ready, the word productive from day one is a hoax, is a complete hoax manufactured by the corporate to give away their responsibility of training the manpower they hire. Number one. The same hoax has been carried forward by, I need not name them, those kind of companies. And they are telling us that your kids are not prepared. There is also economic research available which says every time the economy is doing well, the skill gap goes up. When the economy is not doing well, the skill gap reduces. You can't have an elastic skill gap. So I'm not saying it just as a sentiment, but I'm saying this is something which is backed by research as well. That's one. Second is If we talk of we are living in a VUCA world, which is a world full of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, as well as ambiguity, then we really don't know what the future is. We really don't know. So basically, the job is to prepare the people to be ready for the VUCA world. And skills can't do that. It is knowledge which could do that, and knowledge alone could do that. That is of preparing the young children for a VUCA world, because you don't know what skill, if you learn today, whether it's going to remain prevalent after 3 years from now. The example Anand sir gave just now, I think is very, very vocal about this, that somebody who had the right set of knowledge and attitude could be molded. But if that base was not there, that base being absent, you can't put a layer of skill onto it and then make it useful. And that's why the universities, sir, will always exist and will always exist irrespective of the hoax that is spread by anyone. That's point number one.
So just on that point, I'm sorry to interrupt out there. Skill gap, being elastic obviously is also, when you refer to research, research is also by the researcher, right? From what perspective and what audience and the sample the person's taking out there. We, for a fact, and having lived my life on both sides of the world, both corporate and academics, there is a definite fact when a lot of individuals hit the corporate world, there is a definite gap, from what is done theoretically, what is taught in classrooms, to what is required on that. So the aspect from the corporate world saying that, the students are not completely ready is not totally untrue. There's a lot of fact and steadiness to it. And I stand as one of the biggest advocates of that, because I have seen it myself when a lot of people came to me, what is the gap that exists out there. I also agree with you that, yes, they're moving their heavy lifting onto the educational institutes. It kind of saves them cost, money, and time, where you have them coming in earlier. But don't you see that as a great opportunity for academics as an institutions to work closely with the corporates to create curriculums, which is the requirement of the day, rather than, maybe sticking to age-old curriculums out there. And I think that's where even Edtechs kind of play a very, very important role.
Now, again, today, in my opinion, all curriculums are very much industry aligned. So I don't see that any institution that is there which do not have, at least everybody says that their curriculum is industry aligned, and that being the beginning, I guess, it is so. Number two, I am not advocating or talking about not working with the industry. I am not talking about that. I am talking about the issue of where the skill gap is. Because the word skill gap is always going to be there, but then we are not meant for skills. I mean, let's also understand the job of an educational institution, especially the undergraduate programs. Maybe postgraduate program has a different function. And these functions have to be understood in this drama of this instant world. If we forget this basic duty as an educational institution, I think we will be doing a disservice to the domain that we are supposed to serve, that is the education and those people, the young people who come to us to make their lives with us. We will be doing a disservice, because otherwise, for skills, as Anand sir said already, why you need to come to a university? Learn online, everything is online, go through all the courses, talk to somebody in the IT companies, ask them what courses, what competencies, skills they should have, learn all that, apply and get a job. Why should you want to come to us then? You want to come to us for following reasons. A, coming of age experience. This is the time a boy or a girl is going to be brought into the world as a man or a woman. And that's one. That's the most important thing which we totally forget. There is a social side of it, because we are also creating a citizen of the country. It's not just a job worker and just to provide for an economy which is devoid of a society which is not very conducive to living. That's second. Third is then to make that person worthy of a 30 to 40 years professional span. And a 30 to 40 professional year span, if we are talking about, what skill are then we talking about?
So I don't think we can isolate skill from the whole learning process, right? So I agree with you from a perspective, and it's not a debate that we are into, it's a conversation. I'm sorry if I give you that impression. It's about the whole holistic bit, right? And IT skills are just one part of it. When you talk about skills, it's actually beyond a lot of things, and it's across various industries and requirements. And our role, along with everything that you mentioned, is obviously adding to their learning, their knowledge, and ensuring they're equipped, like you said, for the next 30, 40 years. So the base skills from which they can kind of build on. Anil sir, your thoughts?
Yeah, I partially agree with Dr. Deshpande's observation about, the purpose of going to a university or going to an educational institution. Even, talking to youngsters, there is, on the back of their mind, there is always a motive to go to educational institution to have an experience, have that, social side of things. And this is clearly visible that when it was COVID and we were having online classes, that was compulsion, that they couldn't go out to the institutions and socialize and have that experience. But when there were some relaxations in the COVID guidelines, many institutions still, for some reason, continued online. And there was, at one point in time, I clearly remember, there was a movement of demanding the refund of the fees. Because they were, asking that, look, we are not getting that experience, why we are paying you those kind of fees? That's one part. So which tells me that this is very important. What I don't agree with Dr. Deshpande's observation about this, and you also, Nasir, concurred with that, is separating education and skills. This is clearly not coming from my point of view, where my training has always been, so integrative that when developing a curriculum, we had all those program level objectives, which has got all the elements of the knowledge, skills, interpersonal skills, transferable skills, and all that. And that made the holistic and a whole well-rounded curriculum. And I still believe that that should be the methodology. Skills are part of that. Yes, we do underpinning knowledge. We do give the foundation of any program or any program of study to the students in their initial years. But at the end, it has to be applied in terms of their industry applications, or even it is in the research context as well. And that's where this terminology called research-informed teaching in foreign universities is so much there, that every teacher has to do a research and that need to be taught. And that's where this flexibility in curriculum also is there, which in India, perhaps we still are grappling with this, wretched UGC and AICT and this curriculum, that credit and this credit and all those things. So I think, that is restricting a little bit, but I think it worked very well when we talk about research-informed teaching. We talk about professionally accredited teaching, what is required in the industry, and working with them together, it has brought some good outcomes where students, without having this, Edtech intervention, they could go and work from the day one. That's my experience so far.
When we look at the industry in general, what do you see as the various trends and challenges that are existing for us to take the Edtech, to make full utilization of the Edtech companies and the services that they offer to maximize potential? Your thoughts, and we can start from here, sir.
Yeah, so I can, bifurcate Edtech into two just for the sake of simplicity. One is the automation part, which is for the services. Normally, attendance monitoring and access control and so and so forth. The important part for our teachers is the teaching and learning part. And there are 2-3 things, interventions I could see that which can really help if edtech companies can really mature some of these things is called student engagement. This is quite important. Student engagement, how we track student engagement, how we early capture that a student, red flag, in couple of weeks rather than losing the entire semester. Early interventions, and edtech companies actually can really help, creating some advanced solutions with the use of whatever artificial intelligence or some of the tracking devices, etc. Earlier, we used to go to neighbors and ask about, which is an important question, what's an important question. Now, these collaborative tools, they are so important that online communities, collaboration, we don't need to step out of there. We can collaborate online and do it at any time, any flexibility. And the third is the kind of tools which can actually enhance this flexibility of teaching and learning. For example, use of artificial intelligence in our labs, etc. I have adopted AI in all of my lab experiments. All of my lab experiments in construction technology and even mixing the cement, brick, mortar, all that has been on AR, VR. So students can at any time do that, but at the same time they can have a touch and feel of the material as well. So both of integration of the physical as well as the right balance of technology is definitely helping us.
I think the key word that was utilized here was heightened engagement and measurement of that engagement to understand, what's actually happening in the student's mind. What are they thinking? How is the experience till now? And what is that catalyst or what is that trigger that we can kind of infuse to heighten that engagement further? Please.
I think to answer your first question, probably we are not ready yet to accept the offerings which edtech companies are trying to give. And edtech companies are also not ready yet to offer whatever we want. So we need to sit together. And as I said, it's not one or the other. We'll have to sit together and understand what exactly we want, what experience students want, and then revolve around that. Second important thing, UGC has become so flexible. I mean, probably this is the best time in higher education sector where all the boundaries are getting destroyed in that sense. And it's a welcome thing. So from UGC, they are very vibrant, very aggressive. They say 30% synchronous online, 30% asynchronous online, 30% face-to-face, and 10% is left to university. That means if you try to understand the online component of it, it may reach to 70%, which is a huge component. Now, easy to say, but from where the content is being developed. I mean, the greatest challenge which edtech companies are also facing and we are also facing is development of content. I cannot use same PPT when I go online. I cannot use same lecture notes when I convert my face-to-face lecture into an online lecture. There is a method in it. So we need programs to train teachers on creating content for online education. There is another issue from which I am skeptical about is authenticity of the content. I mean, if you ask any youngster, even I do that, whenever yesterday I had a problem with my, new flat marble polishing. And there was an issue, I started Googling and I got 10 different answers, 10 different solutions. So what is the authenticity of the content which is being claimed by a tech company? So who will check that? So we need to sit together. These are multiple challenges which we'll have to face. But as I said, we cannot run away from it. Whether we like it or not, next generation likes it, our customer likes it, so we'll have to like it, we'll have to adapt it. But for that, more in-depth understanding and study, research is required. That's what my take.
And you bring a very important point to the table about authenticating and validating the content that is there and that sits out there. A lot of these edtech companies are being founded by actually the target audience, which is actually studying with us in higher education. You've got youngsters who are co-founders out there. So what are the quality assurance tools out there? Are there any regulations on monitoring that? Are there any regulations that kind of define, is this the right content that is going out there? That's something that I think is an important point that needs definite addressal. And thank you for bringing that up. Please, please.
See, when we want to change, everybody will agree to this, want to change this much in our course or syllabus. And there is huge debate in Board of Studies and Academic Council. I have seen Pune University Academic Council meeting go for 12 hours, 18 hours. So there is a lot of debate which happens. So where is that mechanism present when we offer something through online program? So better option is, I would say, MOOCs. Because it is authenticated by universities. There is MIT Media Lab, there are many other universities which have their online platforms online. There are many professors who are very popular in their content creation. So I think it has to be some good collaboration, which is happening, but very small way, I would say.
I agree with you. I think there is to be that genuine conversation where the right forums are set, and forums like these where you actually bring them together. Means what would have been lovely actually in today's conversation and panel is if we had a couple of people from the edtech world sitting along with us, putting their perspective forward and putting their thoughts forward in terms of what is it that, so the question like we're asking, where is the authentication happening? Where's the validation happening? We would get some thought process from them too. And that's something that, we should keep in mind also when we're doing that. Hriday sir, your thoughts on the challenges and trends for us to reach use the full potential of EdTech?
I think my previous speakers have mentioned the two topics, so definitely I will concur with that on the student experience and student engagement, there's a lot more to be done. A lot more to be done in that area, and we don't see enough of being done as far. We have reviewed many things, but we have not. And when we look at universities around the world and what they are doing, we find ourselves pretty much short in terms of what is available off the shelf for us to use. So that's definitely one area where we see that we have to look at. Second is, it's all about what I see is that the content that is required is another area which I feel we have to look at. How we have been using it in our university is, we have been using the MOOCs that are there for a pretty long time now, but those are curated by our academic team, and then those MOOCs are made available along with the faculty assistants and so on and so forth. So there are these mechanisms evolved. So to answer your question that how do we see EdTech, I think I have two very, very strong views to put. And let's not, because what the EdTechs are trying to do is trying to get into the business of training. Then I would say let them be called as training companies, and based on that, whatever they are doing, let them do. And if there are some people who want it, they would have it. On the other hand, if they are really the EdTech, and that's where I began, that can it help in the delivery of education in any way, either in teaching, learning, in student experience building, in building of the cognitive and the non-cognitive abilities of the students, because those are the critical aspects. Again, within the skills, if you agree that there are cognitive aspects of it, there are non-cognitive aspects of it, and where are we talking about those? Are we talking of collaboration? Are we talking of creativity? Are we talking, and are these not the essential skills that the industry or anybody would need? So these are the things where we have to look at, and instead of going for the low-hanging fruit that you take up some 20-odd courses, you think that these are something which the students lack as skills, and then you profess that these are the skills that are lacking presently, and then you say these are on the offer, that's something little bit far-fetched. But this, if more serious approach, and we are hungry, I can tell you one thing, as universities in a globalized world, we look at our foreign counterparts, when we visit them, we see what they are doing. And when we come back to India, we feel that hunger, that can this kind of a solution be available to us? And unfortunately, we come to a knot about that. That's the problem. And that is one area where, at least from my own personal perspective, I would be more than happy to review these things and definitely adopt these things into our system.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for that, and I think very, very critical points there. So we've got around 15 minutes left for this panel discussion. What I would like to do, if it's good, is take some questions from the audience. We'll spend around 7 odd minutes taking questions from the audience and answering that, and then move into our closing remarks. So if there is any question that the audience has for the panel, please, you could raise your hand and ask the question, or we'll just continue. Yes, ma'am. We'll have to give one mic at the back.
Hi, I'm Manjula Nair here, 20 years of experience in the corporate world, leading marketing and communication. My question is that, I have worked with HP, Satyam, and MDocs in Pune. We do hire a lot of people from Education Institute, the freshers that come out. But we've always seen that there's a lot of work that IT companies have to again put into these candidates that we hire. At least 6 months to 1 year of training goes into them. So that's an investment for IT companies. I have noticed, and we've also implemented a lot of center of excellences in the Education Institute campuses. So what's your take, all three of you, give me your take on the Center of Excellences, how well are they implemented? Do you think there's value in opening Center of Excellences by the corporates in the campuses? And, how do you see the future of that?
And I think there is no doubt about having Center of Excellences on campuses. I hope those who are from academia, they will all come to you or any other corporate for that. And we always welcome this. When we say this, we are very serious about it. We just don't want it as a tag that I have this center of excellence, that center of excellence. We want something valuable to happen. And as a education providers, we always welcome that. I don't see any issue in that. In fact, we will be welcoming all sorts of center of excellences at university. NEP talks about it. All the universities have in their way, in their own way, started all the activities. But another thing which we need support from industry is all hackathons. So my personal idea of higher education is education through hackathons. We need not have any course for 4 years. Just ask students to take part in 100 hackathons and their job is done. They get enough knowledge. We need not teach them every course separately. They should learn when they feel that it is needed. So all these hackathon type of activities with industry support, I think that will be a great thing. We just only talk about project-based learning. We actually don't mean it. But when we include all these center of excellences, when we include all these hackathon type of activities, when we include all these industry supported or paid activities while running our curriculum, industry need not spend 6 months or 1 year for preparing them for job. They will be already job ready.
Yeah.
So I think that's the change which we expect.
Totally agree here as well that Center of Excellence are welcome to add facilities and to have some of these new things into the campus of the universities. But IT, or any employer for that matter, should not spend 6 months to train the new hires for their skills, they should be, either there is a problem of the hiring, they are not hiring the right people and retraining them in their this thing. Otherwise, if they hire the right people, they should get all those skills from the universities and they be ready on the day one. And these hackathons, I take this as an analogy. Perhaps these hackathons can be converted into those assignments into the curriculum, so that they actually do that in a structured manner, and they graduate, they progress, and they come out as a ready and employable graduates. That's my take on this one.
In fact, the simplest thing which we can implement in higher education is allowing students to choose their branch after first year of engineering. When we give them admissions, we stamp them on day one that you are mechanical engineer, you are electrical engineer, you are civil engineer, with very less flexibility for them to change their branch. Even if we introduce this simplest thing in our universities, 50% of the issues will be sorted out.
I think, ma'am, from where you come from, I think it's a lot of engagement needs to be kind of driven from the corporate world, where there should be a foot taken forward, and a lot of corporates are doing that, spending time. So it's just not about opening a center of excellence, but what's the engagement and what's the investment that's going in out there. Like sir rightly mentioned, both sirs rightly mentioned, I think when they come to you, the bit that you should be adding out there is, the polishing. So I would say a 90-day period, which is your normal induction zone that is there, where the polishing happens and the culture integration happens. What is the style of working that the corporate has, and what is it that expected from there that comes in? Sir, you had a question, sir.
Yes, sir. Dignitaries on the dais, excellencies, and honorable directors and principals, sir. As per the sir told, Professor V.N. Rajshekharan Sir Pillai, Vice Chancellor, Somaya University. Sir, actually focused on, that is 11,000 institutions are there. We have to convert them to university. As per the accord, that is Washington Accord, EBERT, and NBA, and National Education Policy, and this NAC, those are required for necessarily for going for autonomous and universities, that our university, affiliated universities. As we are having, they have mentioned, adopted also, in a teaching learning process. Basically, that is content beyond syllabus. That content beyond syllabus itself is to bridge the gap between industry and institute interaction. And we are actually teaching as per the university curriculum, and that content beyond syllabus, whatever they have adopted, that is useful for almost all the criteria of our NBA and NAC. It is useful for criteria 5, it is useful for the criteria 10 also, that is add-on programs, you can develop the project labs. Means we are totally that accreditation programs, whatever they mentioned, they have totally focused to find out the gap between industry and institute, and what are we are taking the actions, and we have to motivate the students in order to make them practice totally, project oriented, practical oriented. That is nowadays Tech Mahindra, no morning Edtech.
So for the sake of time, sir, what would the question be for the panel?
Question is, sir, the implementation is very important now. When we implement, but how to implement that one? But industry should come forward to enter the institute. Institute also show enthusiasm to enter in the institute, actually industry. But how to develop this one?
So any thoughts on that from the panel?
Yeah, I can briefly share, some of the, how it is done somewhere else, actually, and that is, I always see missing here in our institution. It's the role of professional bodies. Like every profession has its professional bodies, and even, you know, from my own, one is the, you know, built environment. It is a chartered institution of, you know, building surveyors, or CIOB, or RICS, or Royal Town Planning Institution in the case of, you know, UK, and they are globally as well. We lack some of these professional bodies who represent the that industry interface. They then underpin those standards in their annual accreditation processes. There is no need for NBA, NAC, etc., you know, in that case, because then all that purpose is being solved by those professional institutions. I think that is something which is missing, and if we have some of these mechanisms under those kind of you know, umbrellas, that can help in some extent.
So we've got one last question that we can take.
So the first step is convert all training and placements department to industry relations department. T&P should, jobs should happen as a natural outcome of what we do with industry, not as an activity. So just convert all T&P into industry relations as a first step.
Fantastic. So quick one from you, sir, before we go into closing remarks.
Hello, I'm audible? Yes. Sir, in an engineering curriculum, the student studies 40 subjects in 4 years. Say, for example, for computer or IT or for ENTC, he studies for 40 subjects, and specifically for computer engineering and IT, where the students are running right now behind these branches, we teach them the basic things which are being required in this particular domain. But still, industry has a very huge expectation from us. They say that when their industry domain is Python, they want Python experts. When industry domain is Java, they want Java experts. When industry domain is C, they want C experts. Is it possible for the institute to train the students at their UG level before they complete their UG program? It is not possible. But industry, the expectations of industries are very huge. And in the era of this computer and IT, it is not where the technology is changing every second, it is changing. It is not possible to train the students, but such kind of center of excellence, whatever we are saying, we have to rename every month or after every 6 months. So what is the solution for this particular thing?
See, learnability is important. If we train students on learning to learn, I think the problem is solved. We should not focus on technology ABC. That's not possible.
Sir, again the question comes whether they are expert, because industry demand, they, as rightly pointed by madam, she wants experts. She don't want to spend 6 months in training. And when the technology is new, how it is possible?
No, I think 6 months or 1 year is just a time frame. What we should focus on is minimum time is spent by industry on training. So whatever maximum is possible, the gap will always remain. Let's be practical about it, because the technology obsolescence is so high. Whatever was followed today is not followed tomorrow. So we'll have to train students on learning to learn, and then only the problem is solved. Learnability is more important.
In 40 subjects, we can only have a touch and go. We can have only a touch and go in 40 subjects. They cannot be experts.
So
Radesh,
that's what is the point that I was mentioning earlier, that it is the knowledge that is more critical that we need to emphasize upon. Skills, the importance is not bellied, but the over importance is something that we need to be very much aware of it. That's the second point. Third point is, I would just further my colleague's point about the industry body, because the word industry is very loosely used. See, when you say industry, and if we use the word collectively as industry, construction industry or IT industry or electronic industry, then there has to be a document at least from them which says what they want. It can't be exactly what you say, ki A company and B company. A company do not become an industry, and the B company also do not become an industry. And therefore, it is of a critical importance that A is on the curricular side, because between there is again, when we talk of the industry institute gap, there are two kinds of gaps. One is the curricular gap and another is a mind gap. The curricular gap could be addressed by virtue of if the asker tells us what they want, then it could be provided. But then it has to be generalized and put in as an industry collective voice and not individual voice. And the mind gap, as sir said, could be put together by the industry relations where you keep talking with each other and keep understanding. There are several things, even attitudes that you need to work upon. So all of these things can come together only through a dialogue and of not considering the other subservient or lower. The another one of the problem is somebody from the industry by default thinks that the academia is lower in terms of their understanding of the or the level of the subject knowledge, which I often find again at odds with that generalized construct.
Yeah, any generalization is incorrect. So we've kind of run out of time, and I think this was a very, very engaging, interesting, and enlightening conversation. So my sincere thanks to all three of you for sharing your thoughts and tabling it, and to Elets for the platform. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, everybody. I would request Abhishek Singh Tomar, Senior Manager, Elets Technomedia, to please come up on the stage and present the mementos. To Nasir Sheikh, Group Chief Executive Officer, Lexicon Group of Institutes, Pune, Maharashtra. Thank you, sir. Professor Anil Kashyap, President and Chancellor, Nikmar University, Pune, Maharashtra. Thank you, sir. Dr. Hridaya Deshpande, Vice Chancellor, Ajinkya T.Y. Patil University, Pune, Maharashtra. Thank you, sir. And Dr. Anand Chakradev, Dr. Anand Chakradev, Pro Vice Chancellor, MIT Art Design and Technology University, Pune. Thank you, sir. I would request you all for a group photograph, please.